The vast canvas of deep space stretched before them, a tapestry woven with starlight and cosmic dust. 10-year-old Jon Kent, full of boundless curiosity, peered out from the viewport of Jor-El's vessel, his mother Lois Lane by his side. It was meant to be a journey of wonder, a glimpse into the universe's grand design guided by his grandfather, a brilliant mind from Krypton. Jon, with his bright eyes and even brighter spirit, was still very much a child, enchanted by the endless, silent expanse. He was a son, a grandson, and a promise of a future yet unwritten. But the universe, for all its beauty, holds untold dangers. A disturbance began to ripple through the void, a subtle shift that quickly escalated into a terrifying gravitational maelstrom. A black hole, unseen until it was upon them, its crushing pull and unstoppable force. In the chaotic, desperate moments that followed, as Jor-El fought to stabilize the ship and Lois struggled to shield her son, the impossible happened. A surge, a tear in the fabric of reality, and Jon, in a flash of blinding light, was violently ripped from their grasp, swallowed by the darkness. For Lois and Jor-El, the agony was instantaneous and absolute. For Superman, back on Earth, the news would be delivered as a stark, cold fact: his son, gone. Yet this wasn't an ordinary disappearance. Black holes are not merely cosmic devourers, they are also profound distortions of time and space. And Jon, instead of being annihilated, was flung across dimensions, through a wormhole that deposited him onto a twisted reflection of his own world, Earth-3. This was not the vibrant, hopeful Earth Jon knew. Earth-3 was a nightmare, a desolate, crime-ridden dystopia ruled by the tyrannical iron fist of Ultraman, Superman's evil doppelganger. From the moment he arrived, disoriented and terrified, the 10-year-old Jon was thrust into a brutal struggle for survival. He was just a boy, small and vulnerable in a world where might made right and compassion was a fatal weakness. He was quickly found, identified as an anomaly, and imprisoned by Ultraman, condemned to a life of servitude and despair. What followed were years that felt like an eternity. Jon's innocence was stripped away, piece by agonizing piece, replaced by a hardened resilience born of necessity. He learned to survive in the shadow of Ultraman's cruelty, witnessing horrors no child should ever behold. He endured unimaginable hardship, the constant threat of violence, and the gnawing loneliness of being utterly alone in a hostile world. The days bled into weeks, the weeks into months, and the months into years. Slowly, relentlessly, his body changed. The soft features of a 10-year-old boy gave way to the angular lines of a teenager. His voice deepened, his stature grew. His eyes, once so bright, now held the haunted wisdom of someone who had seen too much. He aged not by the passage of weeks, but by the relentless march of years. When he finally orchestrated a desperate, daring escape, he was no longer a boy, but a 17-year-old, carrying the invisible scars of a lifetime of trauma. Back on his own Earth, the passage of time had been mercifully different. For Superman and Lois, the search for Jon had been relentless, fraught with despair, but ultimately measured in weeks, not years. They had mourned, they had hoped, they had searched every corner of their reality, yet in the grand cosmic scheme, only a short span had truly elapsed for them. Then, one day, as suddenly as he had vanished, Jon reappeared. But the reunion, though longed for, was not the joyful homecoming they had envisioned. When Clark embraced what he believed was his 10-year-old son, he found himself holding a tall, lanky teenager whose eyes were too old, whose touch was too hesitant, and whose smile was a ghost of what it once was. The shock was profound, shattering. For Superman, his son had vanished for only a few weeks, yet returned as a young man who had endured years of unspeakable trauma. This was a heartbreaking event that profoundly changed the Kent family dynamic forever. Superman and Lois were left to grapple with a son who was physically a stranger to them. a young man who carried silent burdens they couldn't possibly comprehend. How do you comfort a child who has been forced to become an adult too soon? How do you re-establish a bond with a son who remembers years of separation and suffering that you, as his parents, never experienced? Jon, in turn, found himself alienated, unable to fully bridge the gap between his shared trauma and his parents' loving yet innocent ignorance of those stolen years. The boy they knew was gone, replaced by a survivor. The story of Jon Kent's Earth-3 nightmare is a poignant reminder of time's cruel flexibility and the deep, lasting wounds that trauma can inflict. It speaks to the burden of unseen experiences and the profound challenges of reconnection when one family member has traveled a journey utterly incomprehensible to the others. It's a narrative of loss, the loss of childhood, the loss of shared history, and the profound, aching truth that sometimes even love as powerful as Superman's cannot undo the scars of time. This event didn't just alter Jon, it irrevocably reshaped the Kent family, forcing them to navigate a new reality where their son was a man carrying a past they could never truly share. What are your thoughts on Jon's harrowing journey and the impact it had on the Kent family? We invite you to share your reflections in the comments below. If you found this story compelling, please consider following for more deep dives into the lives and legends of these iconic characters. Thank you for listening.